Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. How are y'all doing on this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful Friday? Listen, I am so excited about today's conversation because I'm going to be giving you proof that your skills can become a coaching business. I am going to be giving you proof. Hello, hello, hello. Thanks for joining. And I don't really do this a lot, but I want to do it a little different. I want to show you some proof because I think one of the most powerful things that I can do on Nick at Noon and on this YouTube channel isn't just tell you what the skills to income path is real, but to demonstrate it. Demonstrate it with real women, real names, real stories, women who were sitting exactly where a lot of you are sitting right now. These women, they had the skills, they hadn't packaged them, they hadn't built income, and there was a version of themselves that they hadn't given themselves permission to step into. And I think proof matters more than inspiration right now because let's be clear, inspiration is everywhere. Lottie Dottie and everybody has a quote and a reel and a caption about betting on yourself and trusting the process and building the life you deserve, right? Have you seen it? If you've seen it, give this video a thumbs up. What most people don't have is evidence, and evidence is what changes minds. Evidence is what takes something from that sounds nice for other people to wait, that could be me. It's what closes the gap between the idea and the decision. And I believe that for some of you watching today, for some of you that have been watching and consuming my content, hearing these stories is going to be the thing that finally closes that gap. So today, we are talking about women that I have had the privilege of coaching. Different industries, different backgrounds, different starting points, and different fears, but the same thread is running through every single story. And that is they had the skills, and those skills became income, and their lives are different because of it. And that is what today's conversation is about. Welcome back to another episode of Nick at Noon. My name is Nick Scott, and I'm the founder and CEO of Her Income Edit, an online education platform helping professional women turn their existing skills into coaching, income, and digital products so they can build multiple streams of income beyond a single paycheck. So, if you are excellent at what you do, you're underpaid for what you know, and you're starting to question whether your job is your only option, you are in the right place. Go get your notebook and your pen. Share this episode with your biz bestie or with a woman who needs to hear what I'm getting ready to say. Drop your city in the chat if you're watching live, or leave it in the comments on the replay. And listen, before we get into these stories, I want to make sure that you know that Her Income Lab registration is open right now. Her Income Lab is the live one-day workshop that I'm hosting on May 30th, where we're going to build your coaching offer together in real time. You will be walking out of that room with your offer, your pricing, your positioning, and a second stream of income in motion. General seats are $147, or you can upgrade to the VIP for $297. I will share more details throughout today's episode, but for now, the link is in the description below. Y'all ready for this conversation? Let's get into it. So before I get to the stories, I want to talk about something because I think it's important context for everything else that you're about to hear. Most of the women that I've coached over the years didn't come to me fully convinced that they had something worth packaging. They came with some version of the same doubt, and that is, I don't know if what I know is valuable enough. Or I've been doing this so long, it doesn't feel special to me anymore. Or other people know way more than I do. Or I don't have a big enough audience. Or I don't know if people would pay me for this. And underneath all of those specific doubts, there's usually a deeper one. The quiet belief that building something on your own is for other women. Women who started earlier, women who are further along than you, women who already have it figured out in a way that you don't yet. And I want to talk about that doubt and not to dismiss it. I want to recognize it and I want to honor it because it's real. It's extraordinary, common, and it's not a reflection of your potential. It's a reflection of the fact that nobody ever taught you to look at your skills as an asset. You've spent your entire career and sometimes your entire life learning to see your skills as something you trade for a paycheck inside someone else's company, right? You haven't really looked at them as something you build and offer around. You haven't looked at them as something that belongs to you personally, that travels with you, that compounds over time, regardless of where you work or what your employer decides about your future. And here's the other layer of this that I think is worth spending a little bit of time on before we get to the stories. And that is, a lot of women have never considered coaching as the vehicle for building that second stream of income. When you hear the word coaching, sometimes you might think of people with giant platforms and decades of experience and a very specific kind of visible brand that looks nothing like where you are right now. You don't necessarily think about yourself. You don't picture the woman with 7 years in HR, or the woman building an insurance agency, or the woman with a gift so powerful that every person in the room can feel it, but she can't yet find the language to describe it clearly enough to charge for it. The word coach doesn't feel like it belongs to you, right? And the reason for that is simple. Nobody ever pointed at you and specifically said, what you have been doing informally for years, the questions that people bring to you before they even know to ask, the problems you solve without thinking twice, the guidance people seek you out for over and over again without ever paying you for it, that's the raw material for a coaching income stream. That is the thing people will pay for. The only thing missing is a strategy to package it and a decision to start. So that is what today is about. And I'm going to show you 4 specific women with specific results so you can stop wondering whether this is possible in the abstract and start seeing that it's possible for someone who looks like you, with a background like yours, starting from exactly where you are right now. So let me tell you about Miss J. Let me tell you about T. Let me tell you about Ayana. And let me tell you about Tiffany. So the first woman I want to talk about is Miss J. And her story is one of my favorites because it so perfectly illustrates something I talk about here all the time, which is that most women are already coaching for free long before they ever call themselves coaches. So Miss J came from 7 years HR and recruiting at global companies. She spent those years helping organizations identify top talent, build HR policies, develop and implement recruiting strategies. She was excellent at her work. She knew her field deeply and she had accumulated years of real, hard-won knowledge about how the hiring system works. She had real skills around how careers get built and what separates candidates who advance from those who get overlooked. And for all of those years, the same thing kept happening outside of work. Friends would reach out to her, family members would call her, former colleagues would send messages. Can you look at my resume? I have an interview coming up. How do I prepare for it? I want to transition into a different field. Where do I even start? She answered those questions. She helped those people over and over and over again for years. She did it for free out of the kindness of her own heart because that's what you do when you care about the people around you and they're struggling with something that you know how to solve. What she hadn't done yet was recognize that the thing everyone kept coming to her for was worth charging for. So when we started working together, Miss J described her businesses all over the place. She had done the things you're supposed to do when you start a business. She had registered her company. She built a website. She set up social media accounts. She started putting out content, but there was no strategy holding any of it together. She was literally showing up and hoping the right people would find her. The content she was putting out wasn't speaking to a specific person with a specific problem. Her brand, it had no clear through line. And because of that, even when the right people did find her, the path from discovering her to trusting her to bring or to hire her, it was unclear. If you are just joining, I am talking about one of my clients, Miss J. So there was also something going on that I want to spend a moment on. Miss J was afraid of live video. And I want to pause here because I think this is so relatable. She could speak in front of hundreds of people without a problem because she had done it. But going live on social media, showing up on camera in real time for strangers who could comment while she was speaking without a script, without control over the environment, that was a different kind of vulnerability for her. That was personal in a way that a conference stage somehow wasn't. And Miss J wasn't sure she was ready for it, but she did it anyway. She started showing up consistently. She got specifically about who she was talking to and what the exact problem she solved for them. She built a brand that had direction instead of noise. She leaned into the visibility that felt uncomfortable and discovered the way most women discover that it was far less terrifying on the other side than it looked from where she was standing before, right? And then something started to shift. The people who were finding her were the right people. They weren't just passive viewers. They were literally reaching out to her. They were asking questions. They were moving forward and becoming clients. Her monthly client inquiries tripled. Her brand was working. And then she had a launch. In 21 days, Miss J made over $10,000. And when I talked to her afterward, she said she would have never guessed that was possible. That number felt unreal and untouchable for her. But it wasn't unreal. It was 7 years of genuine skills finally packaged with intention and pointed at the right people through a brand that could convert the attention she was generating into a real business. And here's what I need you to take away from Miss J's story. She didn't become a different person. She didn't spend 2 years building a massive social media following before anything happened. She didn't get into another certification program, or she didn't go and get another degree. She took what she already knew. She built a strategy around it. She showed up for it, and the income followed. Her career gave her the skills. Her coaching business gave her the vehicle to monetize those skills. And the women who had been coming to her for free all those years were proof that the demand was already there. She just needed the structure to capture it. Are y'all picking up what I'm putting down? If you are rocking with this, if you're feeling this, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up. And I want to say something about the fear piece specifically, because I think it is worth just pausing and talking about for a second. Miss J was afraid of video. She worked through it, and something she said to me about imposter syndrome stuck with me. She talked about the fact that imposter syndrome has no data behind it. There's no paperwork, no analytics, no complaint field. There's nothing to validate the feeling except the feeling itself. So she decided she wasn't going to acknowledge it. Not because it went away, but because she couldn't find a single number to support the fact that it even existed. It was just a feeling, and feelings are not the same as facts. And shift, that shift, the decision to require evidence before giving fear a space in her decision making, that is part of what made it possible for her to move when she did. She stopped waiting to feel confident and started requiring evidence before she agreed with her doubt. And the evidence said, you know what you're talking about. People are already asking for it. Start charging. That is the path, and it started with her decision. Hello, hello, hello. Thanks for joining. If you are just joining right now, I am talking about specifically the proof that your skills can become a business. And I am telling you stories of the clients that I have worked with and how they literally have taken the skills that they have already had, packaged them into coaching offers, and sold them. So, I just talked about Miss J. Let's talk about T. T worked in the insurance industry, and her story is different from Miss J's in an important way because the challenges she came with, they weren't primarily around packaging the skills that she already knew because she knew they were valuable. It was about identity. When I met T, she was in the middle of a transition. She had another business she had run for years, and she had spent most of her professional life being known in a very different context. She was trying to establish herself fully and completely in insurance and be taken seriously in that lane. She wanted to build a reputation and a client base that matched the business that she was working on growing in that season of her life. And she was struggling to figure out how to show up in a way that reflected who she was becoming rather than who she had been. So there was something practical standing in her way. T didn't like the internet. She was not interested in being on social media, and she couldn't figure out how to make insurance compelling on Instagram in a way that would draw people in. So before we worked together, her entire client base came from word of mouth, from people who already knew her. So her friends, her family, referrals from within her existing network, right? And that's not nothing because word of mouth is real business, and it still remains some of the most powerful forms of marketing. But it also has a ceiling because you can only grow as fast as your existing network can carry you. And T could feel that ceiling starting to press down on her. So one of the things I spend a lot of time on in my coaching work is something I call expert power. And this is the idea that the knowledge and credibility that you've built over the years of real work, that it's legitimate, it's significant, and it's yours to claim publicly. That stepping into your expertise and being visible isn't about arrogance. It's about ownership. And it's what makes it possible for the people who need what you do. It makes it possible for them to find you. So T needed to hear that, not because she lacked knowledge. She had deep knowledge about her industry, about protecting business assets and the specific concerns of small business owners that are trying to grow. She needed to hear it because she had spent so long making herself small in professional spaces that she had stopped recognizing her own skills as something worth showcasing. And once that clicked, let me tell you something. Things started to move. When I say T started going live on Instagram, she was going live every single week, consistently. She was booked and busy with video content in a way that would have seemed impossible to the version of her who walked into our first coaching session. People in her industry began to notice, and someone reached out specifically to tell her that her content was great and that they had been watching, and it was clear and it was consistent and it was different from what most people in her space were putting out. And so, for someone who had been invisible online before, that kind of unsolicited feedback was huge. So she was attracting clients through her brand in ways that the word of mouth model had never been able to produce. She had built a digital infrastructure that was doing work even when she wasn't actively putting energy into it. And she had positioned herself so that the opportunities coming her way were aligned with who she was trying to become, not just who people already knew her to be. That is so important. And she said something at the end of our time together that I think about this often. She said, personal branding means stepping into your purpose and monetizing it because you're valuable and you're worth it. The money really does come when you step into your purpose. I've had a lot of conversations about income and skills and expertise and what it takes to build something around what you know. Very few things have been stated more clearly or more powerfully than that. And here's the thing about T's story that I want you to take away specifically. She was not someone who came in with a digital first mindset. She wasn't someone who loved content creation or had been building an audience for years. She was somebody who had deep industry knowledge, a strong track record, and a network that already trusted her. But what she didn't have was a strategy for expanding beyond that network. She did not have a strategy for showing up consistently in spaces where the right people could find her without a personal introduction. She didn't have a strategy for communicating her expertise to people who didn't already know her. So when we built that, the business followed. And it wasn't because she became somebody new, it was because she gave the skills she already had a bigger platform and a clearer voice. So her 9 to 5 in insurance, it gave her the credibility, right? But her willingness to show up visibly, it gave her the reach. And that combination is available to you too. Okay? What do y'all think about these stories so far? We're about to get into story number 3. If you are tracking and resonating with these stories, give this video a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments, all right? Somebody drop credibility in the comments. So the third client that I want to talk about is Ayana. Ayana is a success coach who helps her clients break through the limiting beliefs that keep them functioning from self-sabotage instead of stepping into the success that they're capable of. And the way she talks about her work will give you chills because this woman has a genuine gift. But when she came to work with me, she had a specific problem that I see a lot of gifted women have. She knew she had something, she could feel it, and the people around her could feel it too, but she couldn't clearly articulate who she was specifically meant to serve, what type of opportunity was the right fit for her brand and her message, or how to build an infrastructure around her gift that could generate income and the impact she knew she was capable of creating. So she described it as being great with her hands, but not knowing what she was building. She described it as having the raw material of something powerful, but no blueprint for what to construct with it. So before we worked together, Ayana was showing up consistently. She was already. She was going live on social media every single week. She was putting in the time and she was putting in the energy. But when that live was over, there was nothing to capture the people who experienced her. There were no lead magnets, no calls to action that gave people a clear next step. There was no system for carrying the relationship forward after that one touch point. So she was generating engagement, but she wasn't building anything with it. So the trust that she was developing, it literally reset every week instead of compounding over time. And she said something about this that I want to share here because I feel like it captures the problem so clearly. She said the people crave community and connection. And if the only opportunity she was giving people to experience that community and connection was once every 7 days, with nothing holding the relationship in place between those moments, by the time the next week came around, some of that momentum was already gone. So she was rebuilding the same ground over and over and over instead of building upward on a foundation. So through our work together, Ayana got clarity on her audience. She got clarity on her message. She got clarity on the specific types of speaking engagements that would be the best vehicle for her brand and how to build a full content and offer ecosystem that extended the relationship beyond the single weekly appearance. She had a framework that she could put she had a framework that she could point her gift in the right direction and catch the people who were moved by what she said when she was creating. And what happened after that was remarkable to watch, y'all. Here's the deal. Within 7 weeks, she had booked her first speaking engagement. She came into the new year with a speaking gig on January 2nd. And she had 2 more engagements locked in for February. She had recorded 2 podcast episodes and she had been featured in a magazine that wasn't local, not even regional. It was on a completely different coast. She said the opportunities were coming faster than she thought she was prepared for. And she kept doing the work. She stayed open, and the framework she had built was paying her back every bit of the investment she had made and more every single day. And I want you to really, 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 really think about that phrase for a moment. Every single day. Not every month when a launch happens, not when the stars align and everything feels right. Every single day. The infrastructure she had built was returning something every single day. And that's what it looks like when a gift meets strategy. When a woman who already has what it takes finally has the right vehicle for it. And here's what I love most about Ayana's story. She was never lacking in talent or passion or desire to make an impact. She had all of that in abundance. What she was missing was the framework that would let her deliver her gift to the specific people who were built to receive it. She described it perfectly when she talked about the difference between talking to everybody, which is really talking to nobody, and talking to the ones who were built to hear her voice. That distinction, it changed everything for her. She stopped trying to be broadly appealing and started being deeply resonant with the right people. And deeply resonant, that is what sells. Okay? I have one more for y'all. If you are ready for this last story, this last client testimonial, this last client transformation, drop ready in the chat. So the fourth story I want to share with you today is Tiffany. And I saved Tiffany's story for last intentionally because her story speaks most directly to the woman who's watching this right now from inside her 9 to 5. The woman who has an idea that's been living in her head for years. The woman who keeps saying someday and then finds another reason not to do it. Because that was Tiffany. She's a former collegiate athlete, and she had spent years watching a real gap go unaddressed in the sports world. And that is the quality of conversations between parents and student athletes about goals, dreams, futures, and what the journey really looks like. She knew that gap intimately because she had lived it from multiple angles. And for years, she had this quiet knowing that she was supposed to do something about it. And she had this small, quiet knowing that there was a coaching and speaking business inside of her. And she had this small knowing that the idea was good, but she never moved on it because Tiffany was also a wife, a mother, and deeply embedded in a demanding corporate job. And every time the idea surfaced, so did the reasons of why starting her business wasn't the right time. Where was she going to find the time? What would it even look like? Was it really ready? Was she even really ready? She said it perfectly. She said, everything remained a thought. She was just being a mom, a wife, and a regular 9 to 5, but she was giving more to that than she was giving to anything else. So when she came to me, she said something happened in her body when she heard the invitation. Something physical. Something she described as a spiritual response. She said she didn't want to be a public speaker. She didn't know what she was doing, but she couldn't ignore what she was feeling. So she enrolled, and before she could she enrolled before she can talk herself out of it. She said, if I don't do it now, I will talk myself out of doing it. And in 6 weeks, Tiffany had a business. She had a real one with a name, a website, a niche, a target audience, a voice, and she launched even before we even finished our time together. She said she kept asking herself, did she really just help me get this started in 6 weeks when she had nothing at all? Did I really help her get that started within 6 weeks when she had nothing at all? She had nothing. Then she had something. And that is the whole story. So after the program, she started booking podcast interviews in the sports performance space. She had a YouTube channel interview. She had connections she never could have made from inside of her corporate role. And she was still working in that corporate role the entire time. So she wasn't waiting until she could leave to start. She was building the window while she was still inside the building. That is so important. I don't want y'all to miss that. And here's what she said about why it mattered to her so much. She said that she is trying to open up a window of opportunity for herself and her family so she could have time in a way that she wants her time and not giving it all of her hard-earned energy to someone else. She said, if it's going to be about me and mine, then it's going to be about me and mine. And I want you to think about that for a second, because I think the most honest articulation of why multiple streams of income matter, that right there, that just sums it up all into a nice, pretty little package. Because it's not about quitting. And it wasn't about her blowing up her life. It was about options and having something of her own that was growing alongside everything else. That's what it was about. It was about not being entirely dependent on one employer's decision for her family's future. And she also gave me one of my favorite perspective shifts of fear that I've heard from a client. She broke it down as an acronym, and I know that you've heard this one before. Fear is false evidence appearing real. She said there was no paperwork, no complaint filed, no data to support the idea that she couldn't do it. Just a feeling. And she decided that a feeling without evidence wasn't enough of a reason for her to stay stuck. So she didn't. So there you have it, y'all. 4 women, 4 completely different industries, 4 starting points, and 4 different fears, and the same thread running through every single story. Each one of them had skills that people were already seeking them out for before they charged for it. Miss J's network had been calling her for career advice for years. T was the expert her community already trusted before she built a visible brand around it. Ayana had a gift so evident that people could feel it before she had the language to even charge for it. And Tiffany, she had an idea and a calling that had been living in her head for years, waiting for the moment she finally gave herself permission to move. None of those women needed to become somebody else. None of them needed another degree, another certification, or a bigger platform before they started. What they needed was strategy, what they needed was positioning, and what they needed was someone to help them see what they already had and build something intentional around it. And I want to be very clear about something because I think it's easy to hear these stories and think, well, they had something special. My situation is different. But that's doubt talking. That is the same voice that told Miss J her work wasn't special enough. That told T the internet wasn't for somebody like her. That told Ayana she had a gift without a plan. That told Tiffany it wasn't the right time and she couldn't fit one more thing into her life. That voice is in every single person's story. And in every story, the women moved past it, not because it went quiet, but because they decided to require evidence before giving that voice authority. And the evidence said, what you know is real, people already want it, and it's time to build something around it. The only difference between their stories and yours right now is the decision that they made, which is to say, there's really no difference at all. Your 9 to 5 is not your only option, and it never was. The skills that you've built over the years of real work, they belong to you. They aren't your employer's asset. They travel with you. And the income that you're capable of building from those skills, it is not a distant future possibility. It is available to you right now in this season of your life with what you already have. Miss J proved it, T proved it, Ayana proved it, Tiffany proved it, and Tiffany proved it while she was still clocking in every morning. So if you're sitting here thinking that their story is different from yours, I want you to ask yourself what the real difference is, because from where I'm sitting, I see the same thing in all 4 of them that I see in the women watching this right now. Skills that haven't been fully owned. An income stream that hasn't been built yet. And a decision that is waiting to be made. Her Income Lab is a live one-day workshop. It is happening on May 30th at 9 a.m. Eastern sharp. General registration is $147, or you can upgrade to the VIP experience for $297. The link is in the description, or you can go to my website at herincomeedit.com/workshop. And before I go, I want to thank all of you for popping in and out of today's live. I want you to have a wonderful weekend. Think about these stories. Think about these stories. And if anything resonated with you, drop proof in the comments, because I want to see how many of you felt yourself in any one of these stories, okay? I will see y'all in the next one. Have a wonderful weekend, and until next time, bye.